morning and welcome to day one of game day at Rapid 2021. I'm here with Mike Vasquez of 3Degrees, and we're going to talk about a really interesting program that you've initiated called the West Side Project. So can you kind of maybe start with an overview of what that is, or maybe even step back from that? Why did you even get involved in this?
Sure. So I've been in the additive industry about 10, 15 years now, primarily on the material side, helping companies kind of integrate the technology and build it to a production level, and something that America Makes knows well over the last few years. And one of the things that we saw kind of evolve, I would say, over the last 3 to 5 years really is as the technology grows and more adoption is taking place between a wide variety of industry partners and just industry sectors, what you realize is like there's a whole kind of big area of workforce development that there's a lot of different jobs, whether a lot of we're at Rapid today, like a lot of engineers here, but that's not the only job you need in the additive space. There's, like, just from experience kind of being on the floor at a lot of different factories, you have people that are helping with quality, people that are helping manage materials, helping kind of just document the relative standards that people are using. And so kind of as we were kind of working with a lot of different companies, one of the things that we kept seeing over and over again is that like a lot of companies are just complaining, hey, like we can't find people. And then I live in Chicago, is where we're at now, and there's kind of certain areas of the city that you probably see on the news that like just downtrodden and like not as many economic opportunities. But you have this growing ecosystem where like, hey, people can't hire enough people. There's also kind of populations that may not know what additive manufacturing is. And so I thought like, hey, like is there something we can brainstorm about, especially kind of given the collaboration of the community to do something about that problem. And that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah, so you see, I mean, you kind of talk through there's so many opportunities in additive. We're sitting in the middle of it right now here at Rapid. What kind of, I guess with that diverse set of opportunities, where do you see people kind of on-ramping from, into the technology? Where are the folks who are involved in additive today, or maybe what will that look like tomorrow? Where are they even coming from?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, I have a podcast that I interview one person a week and hear their career story, and like almost to a T, everyone's like, I kind of stumbled into it. Like even like people very experienced, the head of Boeing and like additive, like it's, or people that work at Ford and things like that. Yeah, exactly. And there hasn't been a career path where like, hey, I want to go work in 3D printing. And that's okay. I mean, that's great. Like people kind of get some experience, get like to know people. That's like a big part of our program was like, it's really like, in my opinion, it's more about the network of who you know versus like, can you tell me anything about this material that you're using? And so right now, I think it's like people that want to take initiative, like take companies that are investing in technology and like be kind of that risk taker entrepreneur within big companies, or kind of some of the small companies we see here that are just willing to try new techniques in manufacturing and see where it sticks. And so I think for me, like the people that are open-minded, driven, and not afraid to kind of mess things up or kind of experiment, like often, or even work with their hands, are like the people that probably are very successful in the industry.
So can you talk maybe, peel back a little bit, what does the program consist of that you've worked on developing? What is, curricula, if that's the right term for it?
Yeah, and so the idea with the West Side Forward program was to kind of bring, like what I term it as kind of, what are the economic and job opportunities that are taking place in these white, nondescript, windowless buildings that you see on the side of the highway when you're driving from Youngstown to Chicago. Like you see a ton of them. But if you go in there, like there's often like really cool stuff. Like there's these big multi-million-dollar machines. Like there's all sorts of welding and things going on. But like if you're the average person, even if you're at a university, like how do you get access to that? Like I've been fortunate to see what goes on in those, but I think that's really where it stemmed. And so what we wanted to do was kind of bring kind of 3 flavors of kind of education to a group of people that may not have ever been exposed to 3D printing. So the first part, which America Makes was a huge part of, and like Josh Kramer was able to help me kind of get, like we need some baseline kind of education about what the technology is. So you got to give people kind of an idea of like, okay, this is the different type of technologies, materials, and so America Makes actually donated some online curriculum that we leverage throughout the course via Tooling U to get kind of that part, get kind of like a baseline that they could do kind of both offline and in the class, kind of give them some experience there. The second part was like seeing the technology, because like you only can learn so much by seeing it on a screen, and like it's very hands-on stuff. Like you go to any booth here, like you're going to pick up stuff. And so we were also working with a few American Makes members on that front. So Possible Objects, Renishaw, another organization called M-Hub in the city of Chicago, to bring students to the facilities and see what they were doing, and really kind of look at kind of what does it look like to be and have a job in additive manufacturing. And so like you see people who are making parts and repairing machines. So that was kind of phase 2. And then the third phase was having industry mentorships. So we wanted to help each of the students kind of create a mentor or mentor network within the month-long time period that we were working with them. So we met for 4 weeks in August. It just wrapped up. We're actually going to bring kind of a few students over the week of Rapid to see all the stuff here. And so that was kind of the idea. And so the students were actually kind of from all different backgrounds, which was really neat.
That's wild. So I think one thing us America Makes, we're always trying to bring the community together, but through that we've been fortunate and have been able to build some different programs. And for us, it's all ultimately about collaborating, working together on these kind of programs. Josh always mentions, our workforce and education director, how do we get people in? So he uses this on-ramp analogy, which sounds a lot like the folks that are in this program come from very different backgrounds. So they're all coming from some different background, perspective, whatever it might be, trying to better understand where they might fit into AM and trying to understand that. So as we think of what's been successful in what you're working on today, what's next? How do we take it from these 5 or so folks who are, maybe, I don't know the number of folks exactly, but the folks that went through this, and branch out and do other neighborhoods? Or what's next for the program?
Yeah, so I think that's what we're figuring out now. I think the exciting thing for me, this was like something we kind of worked on for the last 6 months and kind of launched it. Like, hey, it's real now. Like, there's students in there. I think the next step immediately is like we want to get people jobs. Like we want to get them working in the additive manufacturing industry. I think we're on that path right now to kind of be successful with like showing like, hey, ultimately that's what we need. Like that's the metric. Like, hey, people are interested enough to take time out of their day job, and these were folks aged 21 to 50 years old. So it's a wide kind of marker. Like one gentleman, he worked the third shift at his current manufacturing job and did this like during the afternoon with us. And another guy was going to school, and another guy was kind of doing part-time work, kind of doing kind of fabrication. And so like they were invested, and so we want to make sure that they kind of have the opportunity to find kind of career paths here. And to date, I think we've been very fortunate through American Makes and others that we've been partnering with to have a kind of community that says yes, like we want to help, and we have different jobs, opportunities. So like kind of next step is like, hey, like how do we kind of smooth? Like we learned a lot in kind of this first iteration. Like how do we smooth out to kind of get more students involved, kind of find that pathway so we can engage more companies and like be clear on like what are the types of jobs that need a college degree, don't need a college degree, need some basic apprenticeship, and what's the best ecosystem for that, and setting up people for success. And so I think the next thing for us, and we've been fortunate with working with a neighborhood organization in Chicago called West Side 4, that like they do a lot of job skills training on the west side of Chicago. So broadening that, there's a good community here in the city to help kind of bring advanced manufacturing forward. And so we're trying to figure out how to kind of scale it, like kind of scale it, but like
do it again,
grow it. Yep, for sure. And so kind of continue to work with you guys and others in the AM community to get involved. And we had at least 5 or 6 American Makes members involved in this first cohort. So, and it was small, but I think there's an appetite out there.
So if we were to have the opportunity to have the ears of everyone out here in Rapid, how do we, what is the ask to these manufacturers? What do we need from them? Is it about understanding job opportunities or what kind of training individuals need coming out and these various different entry points? What's the ask out to the manufacturing community, specifically those employing people?
Yeah, I think the idea is, like, I've read so many job descriptions and postings. I mean, we need to slim it down. I think we need to say, like, hey, if you like working with your hands, if you're excited about doing this, come work with us, or come, like, kind of see what we're doing. And I think that open mentality is going to go a long way. We've already seen it with some of the Renaissance and Possible Optics. They were starting builds, they were kind of breaking down parts and seeing kind of what's happening. And so I think the real ask is, like, hey, just be open-minded. There's a lot of people that are interested in working in advanced manufacturing. Kind of show them what it is. I mean, I think the other thing that I especially learned in this over the last is, like, talking to some of the students and people that applied, is that manufacturing doesn't have a great reputation as a job, right? I mean, it's like, we see it. It's awesome to, like, see some of these lasers and things going, but, like, I think for the last 40 years, jobs have gone overseas. Your parents may have worked in the factory, but it's gone now. You guys are in Youngstown, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Like, ground zero.
Yep.
And so, like, what does it actually mean? Are there good paying jobs here? Like, what's the future? Like, when you start talking about all the stuff going on in aerospace and space exploration and stuff going on in rockets, I mean, like, got to tell that story a little bit, and then also just prove, like, hey, like, can I, like, with an apprenticeship or with kind of some skills, jobs training, like, can I get a $20, $25 an hour job? And, like, is it sustaining? Can I get skills? And so, like, just be real with people. It's like, hey, like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, there's real, like, things that we have to deal with.
Yep. No, but I think there's, like you said, so many opportunities as far as entry points. I think that's one of the more interesting things about this technology. I just was talking to somebody the other day, and we were putting together a program trying to focus on high school students. And it was really about education and awareness. I grew up in a manufacturing environment. I knew it well. My whole family worked in, from machine operators to engineers. So I, heard it all at the dinner table every single night. Most people don't experience that at all. And even in those manufacturing environments, their world is changing dramatically too. So it's going to be an interesting give and take of, how do we match up these skills and people who want to do, something interesting with manufacturers who are trying to embrace and adopt new additive, new advanced technologies. Not just additive is just a great, way to get it done.
Yeah, and we, like, as part of the program, we wanted people to get kind of some hands-on work. We had a great kind of other local company, like the Future of Jewelry, like a startup kind of in the Chicago area. Like, they gave their software. They actually came to a bunch of all the classes, and they had the students, like, building parts, like, day one, like, through their system, and talking about the entrepreneur story. Because it's not just about, I think there's a lot of, like, you can, like, there's hourly jobs available and things like that, but there's also a ton of opportunities on the entrepreneurship side of things as well. So it's just really something like, hey, like, showing people the path of, like getting some of these conversations out there, like, being able to see it in real life. I think that's the exciting thing for this program, where we hope to continue. And even beyond Chicago, there's always stuff going on in Youngstown, New York, like, Atlanta, whatever.
It's everywhere. It's really what we're seeing. I was just talking to somebody who sits on one of our advisory groups at the Institute, who's trying to do something similar in Baltimore. There's so many pockets of underserved areas, whatever, in whichever way they're underserved, there's a lot of need out there. But in almost all cases, there's good people who, want to work. And it's really about getting them to understand even what this is. It'd be interesting to see, like, as you try to scale this up, right now it's all people who are, stepping forward, raising their hand. They are getting engaged. That's you have to want it to be in that population. In order to scale, we've got to move out into other populations. And how do we do that? That gets challenging. That is for sure. Well, thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to, as this closes out, but really more importantly, what's next for the program, and figure out how, we can work together, or you work with other folks to kind of scale this up and build it out in other areas. So I'm really excited to see it.
Thank you for the opportunity. And if people want to find out more information about what we did, there's a bunch of pictures and things. We'll post some stuff on American Makes, but also on our website, 3degreescompany.com. You can check out like stories of everything.
Are you recruiting for the next class yet?
We're starting to think about it, and so yeah, we're working on that next phase.
Awesome. Well, thank you much. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.